I'm Jack and I'll be your guide on today's trip through the wonders of images and semiotics. Have you ever thought of how your brain processes information? Of how it groups images or how it interprets them? Well, if the answer is no, you should stick close for the next minutes as there are some very interesting visual perceptions theories that I'm going to explain and illustrate. In the attempt to describe how people tend to organize visual elements into groups or unified wholes when certain principles are applied, German psychologists developed a set of theories, and one of them is Gestalt's language of images. It talks about how most of the times our brain groups certain images into one using principles that contain elements such as shape, color, distance, and movement. Similarity occurs when objects look similar to one another and people often perceive them as a group or a pattern. Unity occurs because the triangular shapes at the bottom of the eagle symbol look similar to the shapes that form the sunburst. When similarity occurs, an object can be emphasized if it's dissimilar to the others. This is called anomaly. The figure on the far right becomes a focal point because it is dissimilar to the other shapes. Continuation occurs when the eye is compelled to move through one object and continue to another object. Continuation occurs in this example because the viewer's eye will naturally follow a line or curve. The smooth flowing crossbar of the H leads the eye directly to the maple leaf. Closure occurs when an object is incomplete or a space is not completely enclosed. If enough of the shape is indicated, people perceive the whole by filling in the missing information. Although the panda is not complete, there is enough for the eye to complete the shape. Proximity occurs when elements are placed close together. They tend to be perceived as a group. These three squares are placed without proximity. They are perceived as separate shapes. But when the squares are given close proximity, unity occurs. The same happens when these 9 figures, when placed in the shape of a tree, form a unified whole. The eye differentiates an object from its surrounding area. A form, silhouette, or shape is naturally perceived as figure, while the surrounding area is perceived as background. In this image, the figure and ground relationships change as the eye perceives the form of a shade or the silhouette of a face. Hello again. The second stop of the journey will be semiotics. Hope you'll enjoy. The shortest definition is that it is the study of signs. But what do you mean by sign? People usually ask next. The kind of signs that are likely to spring immediately to mind are those which we usually refer to as signs in everyday life, such as road signs or star signs. We seem to be species driven by a desire to make meanings. Distinctively, we make meanings through our creation and interpretation of signs. Signs take the form of words, images, sounds, smells, and flavors, but such things become signs only when we invest them with meaning. Saussure defined a sign as being composed of a signifier, which is the form the sign takes, and the signified, which is the concept it represents. The sign is the whole that results from the association of the signifier with the signified. If we take a linguistic example, the word open, when invested with meaning by someone who encounters it on a shop doorway, is a sign consisting of a signifier, the word open, and a signified concept that the shop is open for business. There are 3 types of signs. Symbolic, a mode in which the signifier does not resemble the signified, but which is purely conventional, so that the relationship must be learned. For instance, alphabetical letters, punctuation marks, words, numbers, traffic lights, national flags. Iconic is a mode in which the signifier is perceived to be imitating the signified, being similar in possessing some of its qualities, for instance, a portrait or a cartoon. Indexical is a mode in which the signifier is directly connected in some way to the signified. For instance, smoke, footprints, flavors, or handwriting. Denotation tends to be described as the obvious or common sense meaning of a sign. Connotations are determined by the codes to which the interpreter has access. Certain connotations would be widely recognized within a culture. For instance, most people in Western cultures would know that a car can connote either virility or freedom. Myths can be seen as extended metaphors, and like metaphors, they help us make sense of our experiences within a culture. In order to conclude, let's take a look at this photograph of Marilyn and try to analyze it. At a denotative level, this is a photograph of the movie star Marilyn Monroe. At a connotative level, we associate this photograph with Marilyn Monroe's key attributes like glamour, sexuality, and beauty, if this is an early photograph, but also with her depression, drugs, and death, if it's one of her last photographs. At a mythic level, we understand this sign as activating the myth of Hollywood, the dream factory that produces glamour in the form of the star it constructs, but also the dream machine that can crush them. Well, that's all. I hope you enjoyed. Until next time.
Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more.
What you say?